Welcome to the Yet Come On Show podcast. It's all about life, liberty, and the pursuit of show business. And nothing fits better than our tagline for the Yet Come On Show podcast.
Unsolicited material, something I'm an expert at.
Geoff's an expert. Some of you are watching. That's what we're going to talk about. It's when you work so hard to either build a website, do socials, t-shirts, whether you're a band and you've got CDs, and you're trying to put together a package.
A press kit is what they called it.
A good old press kit. Same thing with acting. You've got to get your glossy picture and you send it out, or you send out headshots. Back in the day, you were mailing them.
Yeah.
Now, you still might mail some things, but most everything's done through email or socially.
Yeah, you mentioned, you said, building a website and socials. We go back way before
any of that.
The internet, really.
Yeah.
Is when I started to try to get into show business, some degree or the other. That's why I know all the unsolicited materials and mailing stuff, even making cold calls.
Cold calls are tough.
That's tough.
Yeah, when you call somebody, and what I like to do when I was doing things like this, it's like you tried to leave a creative message. Whether you're chasing down, for us, guests in radio, especially now, when you're in corporate radio, which Geoff and I both used to be in, I did 30 years of corporate radio. Geoff did 20. You've got producers. You've got people coming through because we live in the sixth biggest market. We're lucky. Atlanta's now the sixth biggest market based on population. So the big guys are coming here, and it's easy to get an interview. It's how you handle that interview. But when you're independent, like we are now in independent radio, you rely on relationships. And I will say in this business, and it's true, and this is tough for a lot of people, is it what you know or who you know?
It's who you know. It's who you know. That's
100%.
Every person you know that has made it, you can trace back to who they knew, whether it was a family relative or they were just really at the right place at the right time, and someone took them under their wing. I've never had anyone take me under their wing, except for you now on the Southside Ride on Fox FM.
Well, when Geoff and I met, and we're going to discuss Geoff's life, that is the show today. And the Yet Come On Show podcast is brought to you by Yet Come On Bourbon Whiskey by Legends. And this is it. And this is me trying to make it. This is one of the irons in the fire. And when you look at the bottle, you see the microphone behind it, because that's what we do on our radio show, which you can listen to on our app anywhere in the world, My Fox FM. And then there's a QR code, which now those are important because when you hit that, it goes to the southsideride.com, which gives you all of my socials, all of Geoff's socials. And on the back is the story of just radio and who I am when this goes into other markets. It's smooth, it's sweet, and it's got some smoke to it. And that's exactly the way I wanted it. Coming up on a 2-year anniversary, and that's one of my irons in the fire. But for Geoff, you've done so many different things. You've tried to do it. And like you said, you started trying to do it before there was social media, when you were having to put headshots. And the first thing, I guess we'll start at the beginning of what is Geoff's disastrous life?
Well, hold on, not disastrous life. Definitely had a blessed life. Disastrous trying to get into show business life. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So what do you mean? You had a good life?
I've had a great life and a great childhood. That's why I'm having this block. We talked about that with Eric Von Hessler, and he agreed. My childhood was too good. Maybe that's why I'm not making it in show business.
There's something to be said for that.
I think there is, because you always hear about tortured souls when it comes to the great comedians and the great actors and musicians.
They're tortured souls.
They didn't have, but then there's a bunch of them that did have great, upbringings. So maybe that's not it.
I don't know if that's it, but I do know, I'll say this about you because I know Geoff and you're the subject. You are terribly normal, and your deal is you've got to pop. Sometimes your wallpaper where you're like, oh yeah, Geoff's over there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's me being honest. But when I see you laughing or I see you being creative, now it's on.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to stay in that gear, but you have a day job.
Yeah, I've had a day job at Polar Bear Coolers for the whole time, pretty much. I would say the whole thing started with me really taking action to get into show business was in 1994. This is when, Letterman was huge. He went to CBS. All the comedians were getting sitcoms. Seinfeld was used. I was like, okay, maybe I'll try stand-up. I'll go to the open mic. I'll write some jokes. I'll write an act, just like I see my idols do, like George Carlin and Seinfeld and whoever. And I did it. I wrote it out and finally got up at the punchline after signing up.
So when you write it out for you, and I've seen actors and I've seen musicians have cue cards around them on the set or on stage. Maybe they forget a song. Maybe there's something like, I've got 80 songs. I can't remember the words to all of them. Maybe there's a couple that you stumble on and you have the words on a teleprompter.
Yeah, a lot of I see a lot of prompters.
A lot of prompters because musicians don't remember the words. So for you, with a routine that you wrote out, did you practice it?
Yeah.
So you had it memorized.
I wrote note cards.
Did you have it on an outline on the stage?
No. I just memorized. I used to walk around with just a card that would just be the list, the order they should be in, and I would know the jokes based on what I saw.
Video game systems, Segas and Nintendos, a lot of you kids probably have them. They're so advanced these days, high scoring, digital graphics, CD sounds. Not like when I had this stuff when I was growing up. I had the Atari. We had games like Combat. 2 squares shoot a dot at each other. 1-0.
Those are the kind of jokes that I did, the observational things.
Right. So, all right, and observational humor is funny. That's where Geoff and I met. I was actually already in radio. I was emceeing an event at a Hooters, of all places, and we were doing a talent show. So they had people there to do some talent, and you came up on stage as a comedian.
Yeah, this was when I was in the thick of it. I really tried it for maybe a year and a half to 2 years. This is right in the peak of where I would go try to do stand-up wherever you could, because back then in Atlanta, the Punchline was really the only place. Us local comedians had to kind of make up our own spots to do comedy, but I heard that they was doing some talent show. I was like, hey, maybe I'll do this Hooters. And Hooters is not a good place to do stand-up.
No, I mean, the people are there usually for a reason, either to keep their kids on path or just to gawk, because it's the closest thing to a strip club. As a guy that did bikini contests and dated them, yeah, it's not exactly a comedy setting. Comedy clubs have to be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, and we would do, when we were trying to find places to do comedy in this local comedy group that we kind of put together, we tried it at Neighbors in the Highlands.
I love Neighbors.
Which is like just a neighborhood bar.
It is a neighborhood bar.
People want to sit there and hang and drink. They don't want the comedy show. If they wanted a comedy show, you'd go to a comedy club.
Yeah.
So those kind of things don't really work.
You got to be in the mood for it.
But this was in 95 when I met you the first time, when I was in the thick of it. And it was also right around that time, nothing was happening. I was only 20. But so nothing was happening. It was hard to get up, and I'm still going to school. I have a day job, but I did meet Billy Gardell because he was middling at the Punchline, and I was like, man, this guy's great.
And see, that's a term, middling, meaning he was the middle act. He wasn't even the opening act. He was the middle, which means he's working his way up to being a closer.
Yeah, but he was living here, and he kind of took me under his wing for a second. He actually came and did one of our shows that we put together at one of those cinema draft house places. And but I always say he gave me the best advice and the worst advice at the same time. At that time for me, he said, "Yeah, when you're doing stand-up, it takes you 5 years to start getting anywhere to really find your voice. 5 years.
You want to believe that's not true.
And when you're 20 years old, I'm like, 5 years. That's an eternity.
Yeah,
I can't do this for 5 years with nothing."
Way.
That was the worst advice at the time, but it was the best advice because I think it's so true.
Yeah.
You do need that time, at least as a stand-up. So stand-up kind of fizzled away, and with stand-up, I started to send out headshots for acting, local movies and stuff, and then I started to work as an extra.
All right, tell us about that. You had an agent.
No, this was before I had an agent.
Okay, so you're just doing it yourself.
I'm just sending stuff in, whatever I see in the creative loafing.
So you're following the creative loafing now,
every week.
There wasn't that much acting in Georgia at the time.
No, it would be some local films and some local theater. I never wanted to do theater.
Okay, so you're not an improv guy. You didn't do theater.
Never loved improv.
Okay.
Never loved theater. It's
all right.
Full
well, see,
on.
I went the improv route for a while. I took classes.
Yeah, I did. I took a few acting classes, but it was film acting classes.
Okay.
And then through that, you meet all the extras, casting directors, so you can work as an extra. And the first movie I worked on was Fled, with Lawrence Fishburne and Stephen Baldwin.
Oh, that was a good movie.
It was
filmed here.
It was very exciting. Like I literally walked by Lawrence Fishburne, not even expecting it. I didn't know what to expect.
Wait! You're Lawrence Fishburne. Hey, Geoff Cole.
I didn't even. It took me a minute to even know it was him. Like I was like, wait, that was Lawrence Fishburne. He hangs out or he walks around the set with us.
Was it a big budget film?
It was a pretty big budget film. It was an MGM.
Okay, that's legit.
And the whole premise was it was a silly story, but the whole thing was it would take place and it would be released during the Olympics. They filmed it in early '96, so for a summer release to go along with the Olympics because not a lot of movies were made back.
Because you want two guys breaking out of prison during the Olympics,
right? So. That
I don't get that. They just thought there'd be a lot of people here. But when you're a extra, for those that maybe are trying to break in, maybe this is your thing right now because Atlanta has become the new Hollywood really in the past 10, 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
So what does an extra make?
Back then, it was like $50 for all day. You either are going to work for 3 hours or 8 to 10 hours. Like, it depends on how they use it. I think you get a little extra if you go overtime, but they try to avoid that. But anyway, it's not worth it. I mean, when I'm 20 years old in 1995, yeah, sure, it'd be fun to make $50 if I got nothing else to do. But then that slowly, I think now maybe you get 80 to 100. It's not. But the main thing is, I worked as an extra hoping to get a bump where you get a line. Someone comes up and says, "Hey, you look great. Why don't you say this to this guy? We need a guy to do this."
And that happens in independent films. It does.
And then, but on a major motion picture, you can join the union. You get your SAG card. And you get your minimum, which back then was $500-something. But those are urban legends. Those don't happen. Every single one of those parts is thoroughly auditioned and gone through everything just for those one-liners.
I do know that there are actors on film that start to do funnier things and do more, and they give them more dialogue.
If you're already hired.
If you're hired.
As a
But nobody gets discovered, so you really don't think that happens on the set where there's an actor, or you do something, maybe you keep passing by an actor, and they're like, and you joke with them off air. Are you allowed to joke with them?
I guess you could, but again,
those are urban set.
Those are, or it could backfire.
Hey, can you talk to the dude over there that keeps talking to me? And you're just trying to make it. You're just hoping somebody notices you.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen when you're an extra.
All right, now let's talk about. So finally, you're like, it's not going to happen here. So where do you go to make it happen?
Well, also right before then, I had written a screenplay with my friend Justin, who we became the Frustrated Rock Stars, and one of our first creative projects was writing a script.
By the way, if you want to see what it's like and what this podcast is about, talking about throwing spaghetti at the wall and all you're leaving is stains because nothing sticks, that's another reason to go to the SouthsideRide.com because Frustrated Rock Stars, there's a link, or you can just follow Frustrated Rock Stars. But that's a brilliant name. You're calling yourself out because y'all are musicians, but you're writers. And you're frustrated because nothing's working.
Yeah, nothing's working, but we had the screenplay we wrote, and it's like, I'll move to L.A., move to Hollywood, and see if I can get in and try to sell it.
I dig that, man. You actually, how old were you when you moved to Hollywood?
25. Okay. The summer of 2000.
Who'd you leave behind? Girlfriend?
No
anybody?
Girlfriend. I was bitterly single, desperately single throughout the 90s, pretty much. So I was like, well, I got nothing here.
That's great.
So I thought I'd give it a shot, and I went there. And again, it's just hard to get in.
You slept alone a lot. Or did you have a dog?
No, I slept alone every night.
Oh, damn. Did your mother ever come in and kiss your forehead and go, it's going to be okay?
The only time I didn't sleep alone was when I would come back to Atlanta to visit. Because, again, I still had my day job that I was still working remotely back when no one did that, but I did back in 2000. I would come back here and have some fun, and that's why I ended up moving back. I only stayed there for 6 months.
You were in L.A. for 6 months.
Nothing really happened. I worked as an extra a few times. I did get a little extra bump, literally, on the movie Human Nature. It was not a big movie, but
trying to think what that's.
Tim Robbins was in it and Patricia Arquette. Anyway, there's a scene where I skateboard by. They're walking down the street, and I skateboard by on the sidewalk,
well, that's cool.
And I got paid like an extra $50 because I could skate by them. But that's about as much as I did there. And again, like I said, I was having more fun coming back and visiting Atlanta because I was still tied to here. So,
but you're Geoff Cole from L.A., man.
No, I never really was that guy. I was always the North Side Jeff. So I moved back here in the fall of 2000, and that's when I really focused on, okay, I got to get in radio. Because I actually had worked in radio at a small station in Cumming before I went to California. So I had a little radio experience already, and also doing Album 88. So I was also pursuing radio to some degree.
Yeah, Jeff and I, not knowing each other, both went to Georgia State University, which at the time had the largest college station, 100,000 watts. And that was Album 88, 88.5. So yeah, you'd already done that, and that was structured radio. So you had a taste.
Yeah, I had a little bit of taste, so I was like, okay, I'll come back, and I'll hit Clear Channel hard until they give me a board op job on the weekends. I want to try anything, and then that's when I was like, well, how am I going to do it? I was sending out unsolicited material to all the radio stations.
A lot of unsolicited material. People do that all the time. I saw the packets come in.
You can probably come in every day.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, every once in a while, and it happens, a program director will look at that box of what it looks like crap, but you can tell people put their heart and soul. You see the picture. You see the idea. It's on CD. And back in the day, I'd even see it on cassette. And you're like, it's air checks. And they know to keep it under 5 minutes because nobody wants to listen to more than that. And every once in a while, I saw them go into that box. Or they'd ask us on air, do you know anybody?
Yeah. Again, people, it's who you know. So then I saw you. This is when you were really taking off on the regular guys. The regular guys were looking for a producer. I was like, okay, I got to get this job.
We were looking for one 4 times. We ran producers off because they hated dealing with us.
Right, but the last one that you in 2001, you were doing a gig at the American Pie. Like, hey, Steve, yeah, I am also from Atlanta. Yeah, everyone knows Southside Steve. Hey, yeah, I met you at the Hooters 5 years ago. Remember? You're like, yeah, whatever. But I'm like, hey, but I'm looking for this job. Can you put the word in, or can I come visit? He's like, yeah, call Virgin Murray and come sit in the show one day. And by then, I think you guys had pretty much already hired him, but it was still that corporate thing where they got to advertise the job.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got in the door, and then I met everybody, and then finally talked my way into being part-time.
And see, then he becomes a part-timer, so I guess I get a little bit of credit for opening the door for you, which is funny. But when I used the term wallpaper before, because some people hold position and they do the right thing, and that's what I'm saying. That it's actually a compliment, where you kind of know your space. You're not trying to act up or be the funny guy in an elevator, in front of people. Like when you go to morning show boot camp, for instance, when people are going to morning show camp, where you've got people that are great at morning shows and people that are trying to be good, and they do panels and you listen. But when you get in the elevator and you're going up multiple floors, there's always the guy trying to be funny and what he thinks is maybe an agent or a program director. He's just trying to get a job. You always held position. I would see you, I would talk to you, but you were never like over the top, like, hey man, what do we do? Tonight we're drinking. You weren't that guy.
There's a lot of guys in radio like that.
Yeah, you were more wallpaper, where you were there. I saw you. I noticed you. Not even saying you weren't good looking or a nice guy.
Well, of course you wouldn't say that.
No. Most guys in radio, there's that whole face for radio thing. It's hurtful. But there comes, see, I was the opposite. I came in, bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it in the beginning. I was told, don't get in his face. Go in there with Katie Kiley, who's doing 96 Rock, and bring her these carts. And when you're in there, just say something to make her laugh and leave quickly. So I was coached on how to make little impressions rather than just being a maniac. And I think that's what happened with you. You were solid. You could be counted on. You're never late. That goes over huge. And I think that's how you worked your way up. And credit to you, you became a weekend host. And you did part-time. What stations did you work on? And where did it start?
Well, I started on Mix 105.7, pretty much all the Clear Channel music stations. But obviously the prize was 96 Rock.
Yeah.
So I finally got to I did Christmas morning. Christmas morning 2001 was the first shift on 96 Rock.
Why? Because somebody had to be there. Nothing's automated. Somebody had to press the button, and nobody wants to work Christmas morning. But if you're a yes guy and you take those kind of shifts, you work your way up.
You have to. You
have to say yes.
So then it just became 96 Rock parts, every now and then I got a producer job on when one of them was the 80s channel, and that's just running the board. But it was a pretty good gig because it was remote. I just pressed the buttons for 3 hours a day, and I had a salary with benefits.
Nice.
Those jobs don't exist anymore.
No, they don't.
But then I stayed. Then that got canned, so I stayed on as a part timer. 96 Rocks gets killed, and then I did the Bull for a year, and then I just got burned out. And this was in 2009. I just had my son, and then me and Justin, my Frustrated Rockstars partner, were like, "Hey, let's do this. Let's do a podcast." And this is before people knew what podcasts were. This is 2009.
Yeah. And see, a podcast is going to go better for the wife because you can do a podcast. You tape it like we're taping this in our studio, and you air it when you want to air it. A radio shift is you have to be there, especially on a morning show by 5 a.m. You're not leaving the building till 11:30, and then you're done. But then you have stuff you're never done in radio. You're always looking for the next news story, the next angle, or like me, I was doing bits. So for you, I see what you're talking about. You made what I would say mistake number one, not your fault. If you fall in love, kind of sucks when you're chasing a dream or you're trying to do something. When you're trying to get into show business on any level or trying to start anything, which those are the people we'll talk to, marriage all of a sudden puts a bump, and then you had a kid. Those are two tough things to deal with. Podcast works a lot better than radio on that.
And even that's difficult with little kids.
Wow.
To do that, because I was also doing the editing and all that stuff.
But
and
you
again,
were the first to do podcasts.
One of the first. This is the one thing that Justin and I did as the Frustrated Rock Stars, where we were a little ahead of our time. And again, we put 2 years into it. We did it for 2008 and 2009.
Wow.
And it was Talk and Roll. They're still out there on the Frustrated Rock Stars YouTube channel.
I never even heard. I don't think I heard of a podcast.
No, they didn't. Eric Von Hessler came down. Then I started to get all my radio friends to come on because they would.
So Eric Von Hessler is a regular guy on 96 Rock. He was on in L.A. too. So yeah, if you can get somebody of that's notable at the time.
Yeah, and ideally he would go on the regular guys and talk about this podcast he went on, but it wasn't. You guys didn't know what he was talking about.
No.
So we did that for 2 years, and again, just got burned out because we weren't getting any traction. It just wasn't.
So y'all called it quits.
Yeah. We kind of got bored with it, and we're like, let's make music. Let's start writing songs. Then him and I shifted into getting into music production, and I've always wanted to do that. I've always been sort of a musician. So then we really got serious about writing songs and trying to pitch songs. Well, what happens then?
Because being a songwriter is a legitimate income.
Correct. It was. Not so much these days with all the streaming service. You hear about they're not getting the royalties they used to. So again, bad timing. Now we're trying to get into the music business as songwriters as it's fizzling out.
So how many stains on the wall right now? We've got stain number 1, which is stand up. Stain number 2, which is L.A. Stain number 3, which is the radio thing. It hasn't really stuck for you, at least on the level you want it. And then the other stain would be the podcast, and you were a pioneer, and it didn't work. Now we're in music, and you have the site Frustrated Rock Stars for a reason.
Yeah, that's where our music is, all of our sort of, just like the Southside Ride, all of our things that we're working on to try to, achieve our dreams. And,
which is not work in a normal job. Look how you want to look, dress how you want to dress. And this is a good time to mention Ridgeline Counseling, because mental issues. You know what? There's a lot of people that go mad because they can't make it. Jealousy is a number one frustrator and will drive you to the brink. You got to get rid of the jealous component if you're chasing a dream, because you're going to see others make it. And you're going to wonder why. Why them? And you can't wonder why. Like you said, they probably knew somebody. And that happens. Or they're doing a decent job. Or with careers come luck, timing, and ability. It's those three things. I learned that. That's how I got my job. Timing, right time at the right place, blowing out a producer, luck, right, and just being able to do it. That was for me. For you, that hasn't really hit yet, but think about it. Your hustle has had you in LA. It's had you now on air. You're now doing part-time work on legitimate station with benefits. So you're making progress, which I dig. But one of our sponsors is Ridgeline Counseling. MarkwellTherapy.com. David Markwell, Dr. David Markwell, he's awesome. He's been a sponsor on corporate radio with me for, I want to say 10 years, 12 years now. He came on board and he sponsors this podcast, and he has 2 locations, one in Marietta, one in Blue Ridge. But go to MarkwellTherapy.com. He's affordable. He's got a great team, or you can use him yourself. And if you can't get to one of his offices because of COVID, they do Bluetooth. But he deals with a lot of young people with problems and a lot of people with frustrations. And who knows? I'm not saying you needed counseling, but you might. And that's why I'm glad to have him as a sponsor on our podcast, which is Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Show Business, because it's not an easy path.
No, but I'm not giving up. I'm still...
So I know where you are now. You're on the air with me on My Fox FM. Mm-hmm. And we do a morning show every morning, 6 to 10 a.m., heard in Middle Georgia and Atlanta, or wherever anybody, listens on the app. You take the app anywhere, and it's Clarity. I do both. I find myself if a station's going out, because it's a lot of work to know what signals we're on, but we're on 7 different signals. But Geoff's the co-host. And I brought him in, and we've been together for a year. And we thought about this podcast, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because we're going to talk to other people that make it, people that don't, people that are still trying, inventors, actors, comedians, musicians. It's all open season.
Yeah, it won't just be show business stuff. It can also, like you said, inventors, chefs would be a good one. Anybody trying to pursue their passion.
Yeah, I mean, I had a water treatment company and I had a bar that went down. What businesses for you have gone down? Has anything like hurt your wallet with what you're doing or the things that you've tried to do? You've always had a job that you could work from anywhere as backup.
Yeah, I've always had that. And people say that if you have a backup, you'll take it. That's also why I'm not getting to I'm not putting all in on these things. I'm still keeping my safety net. And like I said, once you get married and have kids, then you really have to keep it.
You got to have a safety net.
Yeah. No, I've been fortunate. I've had a little bit of money to try to, buy equipment and make shows. Like I did the pilot. I shot a whole TV pilot called In Concert, which I did at the Roxy Theater. And I spent a couple $1,000s doing that myself.
Right.
And that was back when the idea was to pitch it to a TV, MTV or VH1 or something.
Sure.
But if you don't know anybody, I could write Gone with the Wind. If I don't get it to the right person, it's not going to get out there.
No, it's not. And that's tough. And you interviewed George Thorogood at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of your work. I want to put it out there. Joe Bees is a sponsor, and I take bee pollen every day, 2 capsules. I've been doing it now for probably about 3.5 years, and it gives me energy, and it helps me. The tagline is attack the day, but with bees, there's nothing added. So it's straight from nature, and that's another reason I love it. And it's just bee pollen, and it turns out bees are like the key to the circle of life. So go to Joe Bees, and right now there's a killer deal. Oh, that sounds like killer bees. Was that bad?
Well, the killer bees, that ended up being a hoax. There was no killer bees. Remember that we were going to die?
Yeah.
The killer bees are coming up from Mexico and we're going to die?
Yeah, those big bees.
That never happened.
Okay.
I was afraid of it when I was a kid.
Yeah. See, I believe all that crap. I'm a sucker, man. I hate.
So you believe in quicksand?
Yes, I believe you could sink. I saw Tarzan. I saw people sink. I've seen it. So I will say that Joe Bees right now has a special, and it's kind of a special for him and a Yeah Come On special. It's a spring special. If you go to Joe Bees, JoeBees.com right now, if you commit to 10 months worth, you're going to get 4 months for free. So you buy 6, get 4 months for free. It's not expensive, and I'm telling you, it works. They got a 100% guarantee as well. So go to joebees.com today. But this is where we start. This is, I hope you don't feel like a victim today. In closing, is there anything that you think you can do now that what you've learned by your mistakes? Where do you think you're heading? Do you think that helps people? Do you think some people are just doomed to never make it?
No, I think something will happen eventually. It's just the never give up. What's that you say? The people who make it or who tried one more time?
Anybody successful tried one more time.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. So I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon.
Any CEO, chances are, has gone bankrupt once or twice. Yeah. I don't know why that is. You fail, and then you try to make it. I will say in closing, one thing that Geoff and I do, attach yourself. This is like a self-help thing, but I just feel so bad for your life.
You don't feel bad for me.
I mean,
my show business life, maybe.
But. Yeah, that's it. Otherwise, no, sex life's great. No, we're just talking about show business, and I'm having fun with you. Rocket ships, man. I learned it. If you've got anybody, and in the creative business, nothing against ex-partners, but if somebody's bringing you down or somebody has a different agenda or they're jealous of you or jealous of any success, you can't be around those people. You just can't. So find your rocket ships. Anybody that's got issues or broken, do what you can, but don't live there, man. You can't fix people, but you hope they can fix themselves. That's where Ridgeline Counseling comes in. This is the Yeah Come On Show podcast, life, liberty, and the pursuit of show business. And it's all about sending out
unsolicited material.
Will it ever work? So you're saying there's a chance.